SpongeBob SquarePants is hiding one of the darkest world-building rules in kids' TV. You've probably noticed that in Bikini Bottom, the fish can wear each other's skin. Now obviously, some of these gags are just jokes, but some of them are genuinely concerning. And because the show does it so often, we've all just gotten used to it. It feels like just their thing, right? Nothing to see here. Well, that's what they wanted you to think. Because when you actually slow down and take a good look at every single one of these skin moments, you may notice something. Those skins are hiding the true secret of Bikini Bottom. Sounds crazy, right? I know. But after days worth of searching, I managed to collect all the evidence, enough to solve this mystery for you. And the scariest part, the show itself gives us subtle clues to prove that this is canon. Now before I get way ahead of myself, I had to point out the part that actually makes sense, or at least almost makes sense. Some of these skin moments are actually clever biology jokes. For example, Patrick is a starfish, and if you know anything about starfish in real life, you know they can regrow arms if they're chopped off. In fact, that's how some of them reproduce in the first place. Same with SpongeBob himself. Sea sponges can break apart infinitely, and each piece can keep growing by itself. So when SpongeBob rips off his skin and later grows it back, yeah, it's weird, but it's still within sponge logic. Mr. Krabs? He's a crustacean, and crabs really do molt. They shed their shells and grow new ones as a part of their life cycle.
I've molted!
Even Gary losing his shell isn't too far-fetched. Snails in the real world sometimes abandon damaged shells and adapt into new ones. Sometimes it's not even a real shell that they use, it's just whatever's available and they live with it. It might be weird to see, but it's not unusual. This makes sense since Stephen Hillenburg, the creator of SpongeBob, was a marine biologist and even taught marine science before becoming a showrunner. So if you factor that in, these jokes are actually kind of clever details that only a biology nerd turned writer would sneak into a kid's cartoon. To be honest, if the show only did this kind of thing, I'd say, sure, Skin Theory is just SpongeBob writers geeking out about biology. A little gross, but nothing deeper. But that's also the trick. It's a clever smokescreen they put up to make us think it's just another goofy SpongeBob quirk. Because once you start digging, you'll realize the show keeps pushing the skin jokes further, past the line of science, past the line of logic, into something way more disturbing. Remember this one? SpongeBob using Mr. Krabs' entire shell and walking around pretending to be him. He even uses it to attend the Navy reunion pretending to be Krabs. And somehow, no one said anything about it? They just believe it's the real Eugene? These sailors literally served with Krabs for years. You're telling me they actually believe SpongeBob is Krabs just because he's wearing his shell? His eyes are different, his voice is different, even the way he speaks is different from the real Eugene, right? They're too busy admiring the almighty shell of Eugene Krabs to care who's actually inside it. And then it gets stranger. Plankton disguises himself by stealing Sandy's fur and uses it to trick everyone to get the Krabby Patty recipe, which is creepy enough for several reasons. Because one, that's not how squirrel fur works. A squirrel doesn't shed its own skin like crabs do. And two, what's worse is the disguise works. People are actually buying it. I mean, sure, technically this time is better since some people do notice that something feels off.
Sandy? You don't look so good.
No reason to be suspicious in any way, y'all.
But it surely can't feel right seeing a land mammal without both of its eyeballs. She's also walking around without her spacesuit, which is something she needs to be underwater. Does everyone just accept any kind of half-baked explanation as long as she's speaking with a Texas accent? Or is that just how Bikini Bottom works? It's just odd. And then it takes a hard left into full-on disturbing. Squidward greeting the kids while wearing salmon skin might seem absurdly funny at first, until you remember Squidward here is wearing someone else's body and face as a costume. Of course the kids threw rocks at him, they're just freaked out by his costume choices. But then again, the redfish is actually looking like a prop costume. You can see the hole in the suits for his tentacles and it doesn't cover his face. So as scary as that sounds, it's just the equivalent of Kevin Hart wearing the Rock's look as a costume. But none of that compares to the next case, because arguably one of the most crazy and absurd skin moments in the show is the final sequence from I Had an Accident. Like, how? How did a gorilla get Patrick's skin in the first place? Patrick's gorilla suit is perfectly normal. Many of us humans wear gorilla costumes as a joke. But Patrick's skin? Where did you get that? I mean, I know Patrick did lend his skin suit to SpongeBob that one time in Bummer Vacation, but that was Patrick giving SpongeBob his own skin willingly. I don't think he's giving it willingly to this gorilla. Patrick himself seems surprised when he sees the gorilla. Then again, it is Patrick we're talking about. Maybe he just forgot that he gave it to the gorilla for some free ice cream before 4 p.m. Who knows? Now, every single clip I showed you always involves the main cast. SpongeBob, Squidward, Sandy, Patrick, Krabs. So maybe it's just their special thing for the plot? Like, maybe the show writers only let the main characters do this gag because they're the stars of the show. It's not like the regular fish walking around Bikini Bottom could do the same thing, right? Wrong. Actually, there are lots of fish in Bikini Bottom pulling the same skin suit stunts. A random mailman could shed his own skin twice and reveal entirely different kinds of fish each time. How many more does he have under that? How about this guy? The scammer who was disguised in his own injured skin to trick SpongeBob and Patrick. How does that work? Do you just keep all the skin you shed and store it for later use? Or is it something handmade, purely to scam people? Even some background fish at the Krusty Krab pulled off this stunt. He got the whole bodysuit of an entirely different fish and used it as a new identity. You'll catch fish with completely different faces, arms, and skin tones just swapped out on a daily basis, like they went shopping for parts and mixed them up that morning. And that raises a big suspicion. Maybe nobody bats an eye to those weird, out-of-place disguises because it's a normal thing in Bikini Bottom. Any fish could wear somebody else's skin and that's that? Nobody questions their identity? And if swapping skins is this common, then where's it all coming from? You don't just stumble across spare skins or body parts lying around. That means there has to be an entire economy behind it. At this point, it starts to feel like Bikini Bottom is hiding a full-blown black market for bodies. Wait, they do. They sell it freely and legally.
So please, browse our extensive wall of noses.
Patrick goes in to have a nose extension surgery one time. Yeah, he did. And strangely, nobody treats it like horror. It's just, hey, Patrick's got a nose now, like going to the dentist. What's also concerning is that the place is called Nose and Things. Does that mean they have other body parts in there? Ears and mouths, maybe?
I heard that.
Yeah, they do. Which means this isn't even a hidden crime. This is just the world they live in. This is their version of consumer culture. You can swap out parts of yourself at will and society just shrugs. And it doesn't stop at that. Bikini Bottom is full of products built on this idea. Remember anchor arms?
Well, now you too can have muscles.
With anchor arms! Just add air.
They sell inflatable muscles as if it's gym gear. The entire commercial is just fish buying fake limbs to impress people. And if there's anything we know about these modified body parts, it's that they aren't really built to last. Patrick's new nose got destroyed just by the sheer amount of stink by the end of the episode. And the anchor arms are basically just cosmetic, without any real muscle. So I take it there's some limit to this kind of stuff, but then there's also another body modification project that not only changes their physique, but goes so far as to alter their personalities. In Abrasive Side, SpongeBob gets a rough side that he attaches to his back to stop being such a people pleaser. But it did much more than help him say no.
Oh, I certainly said... No, can't do, you brainless lab rat.
I need you to work an extra 17-hour shift tonight.
Oh, sure, mister. Sorry, Krabs, I'm busy. Unless you're paying me overtime.
That abrasive sponge brings out SpongeBob's bitter side and makes him roast people left and right, which is actually kind of nice. I really like seeing SpongeBob roasting people. Anyway, don't forget the medical professionals. Remember the snail doctor from I Was a Teenage Gary? Look at him. His hands are clearly different from his body. They're different colors, and instead of fins like regular fish, he has hands, complete with 5 fingers. They're definitely not his real hands. It does have some justifications though. If you're a doctor performing surgeries on a daily basis, I guess it's helpful to have human hands rather than just fins, right? Then again, if your doctor shows up with arms taken from a totally different species and nobody even blinks, that means this culture is already built for it. At this point, I think we can stop pretending it's random cartoon nonsense. This show is giving us a clear answer. Bikini Bottom has an entire hidden economy built on skin swapping and body modification. Clinics, shops, products, scams, surgeries, it's all there. The only reason it feels hidden is because the characters treat it like it's normal, and the only one who thinks it's weird are just us, the viewers. And the wildest part, if you really think about it, SpongeBob and Patrick themselves might be right in the middle of it. He knows how to handle skins, he's done it before, he knows how they work, he knows how they trick people. And when you look at his lifestyle, it actually makes sense. He's a fry cook at one of the lowest paying jobs in town, yet somehow, some way, he's always got new props, costumes, furniture, even entire rooms full of gadgets. Way more than his paycheck should ever cover. Where's that money coming from? Well, maybe flipping burgers isn't his only gig. Maybe SpongeBob's other job, the one nobody talks about, is flipping skins. Selling, trading, moving parts through Bikini Bottom's underground market. Think about it. His body regenerates infinitely. That means an infinite source of material. SpongeBob can literally print money with his own body. The same could be said about Patrick, since he's another person with infinite regenerating ability. Well, maybe not with Patrick. The guy still lives under a rock with 90% of his furniture made from sand. He even loves to eat sand for breakfast, and the only times he ever gets some real food is at the Krusty Krab, and he almost never pays for it. We've seen it time and time again, Patrick getting scolded by crabs because of his enormous tab. Such a shame, Patrick. Your body is literally made out of gold and you're too stupid to cash it in. You could buy as many Krabby Patties as you wanted if you only knew. Wait, is that how he always pays his patty bills? It always baffles me why Krabs the cheapskate still gives Patrick Krabby Patties again and again, even though it's proven that Patrick never has any money in his wallet. Does he just trade his body parts or skin to pay Krabs? That also means maybe the Krusty Krab itself isn't just a restaurant. Burger joint in the front, skins in the back. And if that's true, does it mean the skin theory canonically explains the secret Krabby Patty recipe too? It's just fish meat and skin all along? Even if that's halfway true, then the Krusty Krab is feeding them themselves. Anyway, even if you set aside the recipe, the point still stands. But that still doesn't answer all of our curiosities. Because let's just say this is the normal way of their world, and they've lived like this for quite a long time. Then we've got to ask the next big question. Why? Why does Bikini Bottom, out of all places, normalize this kind of thing? How did this culture even arise in the first place? Again, the show never really answers this, so it's up to us fans to interpret it. And wouldn't you know it, I already have a guess, as always. The easiest way to explain it is to compare it straight away to something we already have in real life, plastic surgery. For humans, the practice of body modifications has been widely known since the 70s, and is routinely used for both medical and aesthetic reasons. The thing is, those surgeries and body modifications usually stop at small changes. Nose jobs, implants, tattoos, hair transplants. You can only tweak or replace what you already have. You can't just wake up and decide, yeah, I think I'll have tentacles today. But under the sea, the rules are completely different. Think about it. Us humans, though we come in different races, still share the same body features. One head attached to the torso, 2 arms and hands, and 2 legs with feet. That's pretty much it. But the ocean is packed with thousands of species, each with wildly different bodies. Some have shells, some have claws, some have giant teeth, stingers, or even bioluminescence for those who live without the sun. Some creatures can literally change color and shape on command. And you're telling me that all these fish just accept the body they're born with? Of course not. It makes total sense that in a place like Bikini Bottom, body envy becomes a cultural obsession. I wish I had claws like a crab. I wish I had tentacles like a squid. I wish I was fast as a dolphin. And thanks to clinics, surgeries, and products, they can actually do it. What started as small enhancements, like Patrick wanting a nose, could spiral into full transformations. Then companies started selling new parts like fashion accessories. Anchor arms weren't about strength, they're just aesthetics for identity. And eventually, it wasn't even about looking good anymore. It was about experimenting, mixing and matching body parts just to see what you could become. Of course, they also had an option for someone who just wanted to look like they were in better shape, without a huge commitment to surgery like Patrick. So they started selling full body costumes that could be worn on a daily basis, like for the fish at the Krusty Krab. When you think about it that way, all the skin gags suddenly make sense. They're the byproduct of living in the most diverse ecosystem on Earth, where everyone is constantly surrounded by creatures with abilities you'll never have. And in that environment, it's only natural that an entire culture would form around body modification by literally trading skins, organs, and features like they're collectibles. Which brings us back to the show. Because once you accept that this obsession exists, suddenly all those bizarre skin moments in SpongeBob start popping back into your head. And that's when we get to the part that creeps me out the most. Because skin theory doesn't just explain biology gags or scam characters. It actually explains some of the weirdest plot points in the whole show. Once you accept that skin theory, the show itself starts to look completely different. Let's go back to some of the strangest skin moments and watch them again through this lens. Remember this one? SpongeBob fools everyone in the Navy with Krabs' shell, and nobody bats an eye. But if skin swapping is the real cultural norm, then the Navy sailors don't question it because they've seen this before. They're used to friends showing up in recycled shells or skins. They're fooled because in their world, that's just life. Or this one. Plankton sneaks into Sandy's fur and uses it as a disguise. Now, in our world, that's pure nightmare fuel. I mean, imagine your close friend showing up without eyeballs or a spine. That's pretty terrifying. But in Bikini Bottom, it doesn't even get a second glance. Maybe Sandy just wanted to ditch her eyeballs for a while. Maybe she's tired of lugging a spine around. Maybe she's finally joined the sea creatures and swapped out her lungs for gills. In this world, you can't judge that. And then there's the mailman. His double shedding looks weird at first, like why would you need 2 extra bodies under your skin? But with skin theory, it's actually a sad story. Maybe he doesn't feel confident in his real body. Maybe his coworkers make fun of him, so he just slips on another skin to live a normal life as a mailman. When you look at it that way, Bikini Bottom actually feels like a pretty progressive place, a society that accepts diversity, whether it's natural or manufactured. Who would have thought? And then there's this.
Back inside yet? What's a gorilla doing underwater in the first place?
At face value, it's one of the most absurd endings in SpongeBob history. A gorilla rips off his Patrick skin and then rides off into the sunset with George the zebra. It's insane. But with skin theory in place, it weirdly makes sense. It's the ultimate confirmation that skin swaps exist in-universe as real, transferable identities. When the gorilla said, "They're onto us," and ran off with George, they're not talking about SpongeBob questioning the logic about why a gorilla and a zebra could breathe underwater. After all, it's a show where they had fire and a beach, Goo Lagoon, deep under the sea. That's not exactly mind-blowing. What is mind-blowing, however, is SpongeBob about to realize the true intentions of their attack. Notice that the gorilla just put Sandy and Patrick into the bag, but instantly snapped SpongeBob in half the moment it saw him. The gorilla just wants to get rid of SpongeBob. Now, here's where it gets wild. The gorilla goes so far as to disguise himself in Patrick's skin just to sneak onto Conch Street. It only blows its cover when suspicion arises. Why would anyone go through all that trouble? Unless the gorilla wanted SpongeBob's position as the fry cook at the Krusty Krab. Sounds ridiculous, right? But hear me out. Do you know who this gorilla is? That's right, he's the fry cook at the poop deck from episode Friend of Foe.
What? They let a smelly, hairy flea bag like that serve food?
I think he's just tired of working there. I don't blame him though. Working with Patchy the Pirate doesn't sound like the best gig. So what if this gorilla decided to make the jump, got himself modified to breathe underwater, traded Patrick's skin for some ice cream or whatever Patrick would agree to, then made his move, eliminate SpongeBob and claim the spot as Krusty Krab's new fry cook? Alright, at this point I can already hear some of you thinking, what the hell, this theory seems far-fetched. Gorillas don't make any body modifications or take anyone's skin. How does that relate to the theory? Aha, but then, how do you explain this? Because the same gorilla just made another appearance years later on Gorilla Suit Day in Season 16. See that thing in his head? It's a fish gill. So yes, this confirms it. The same gorilla from I Had an Accident had body modifications in order to survive underwater. Or maybe he's wearing the skin of a real sea gorilla. This show has a sea bear one time, why can't they have a sea gorilla? And before you ask, are you sure that's not just some random sea gorilla and not the same one in I Had an Accident? I can assure you it's the same gorilla. I made sure to check the wiki pages for this. So there you have it. The show itself confirms this theory. Pretty wild, right? Anyway, now you understand that the skin theory is merely a reflection of society where identity is fluid and everybody's up for trade. Which begs the final and most disturbing question: if the everyday citizens of Bikini Bottom live like this, how many people are still real? Because if you ask me, the first thing that comes to mind when I think about the application of this theory is Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy, and pretty much all of their villain nemesis. Think about it. On the surface, Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy are exactly what they look like. Parodies of Aquaman and his sidekick. Two retired human superheroes who just happen to live under the sea. At least, that's what we all thought growing up. But the details don't add up. For one, if they're supposed to be humans, why are they the exact same size as every other fish? Humans should tower over the residents of Bikini Bottom. Instead, they blend right in. Two, it's proven that their powers aren't natural gifts. Every ability they have comes from gadgets, utility belts, rings, contraptions. They don't control the sea creatures like Aquaman, they just fake it with technology. So here's the real possibility. Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy aren't humans after all. They're fish. Fish who modified themselves surgically and culturally to look like humans. Look at Mermaid Man's body. The starfish nose, the human-like lips, the upright stance. It's the exact same type of modification we've seen in other fish, just pushed further. And Barnacle Boy? He's literally a fish who swapped out almost everything until he became something else. I would bet the diving fins in his legs aren't diving fins at all. They're his actual fins, he just covers them up with boots. And it doesn't stop there. The same could be said about Man Ray. One time we even saw him take off his head and give it to SpongeBob, and he walks away fine without it. The mask could be a gadget after all. His real body is only from his torso to his legs. But the real punchline is that Bikini Bottom buys it. They accept these two legendary superheroes and every other villain not because what they do, but because of what they look like. Because in a culture obsessed with skins, the ultimate status symbol is wearing the body of something you could never truly be. And that's what skin theory has been pointing to all along. It's the hidden lore of this world that, oddly enough, explains all the weird stuff that happens in Bikini Bottom. There's a black market economy in Bikini Bottom running on skins and body swaps, and SpongeBob with his regenerating body is the perfect main character that quietly shows us how it works. That's how we can afford things a fry cook shouldn't be able to. That's why Patrick is always eating without paying. That's why the Krusty Krab itself feels bigger than just a burger joint. Because in the end, Bikini Bottom is powered by identity, by the skins you can trade, the bodies you can wear, and the lives you can borrow. Heroes, villains, even background citizens, they're all living proof of it. Which means skin theory isn't just some random fan theory anymore. It's the secret backbone of Bikini Bottom that canonically answered all of our questions about the show. But here's the catch. Not every mystery in Bikini Bottom can be explained by skins. Some go way deeper than that. Take Squidward, for example. He's not hiding under another skin. What he's hiding is a bloodline. A bloodline that doesn't point to Bikini Bottom at all, but to something far older, far stranger. Atlantis. And once you realize that, skin theory suddenly looks like just one piece of a much bigger puzzle. If you want to see how Squidward's story connects back to a forgotten civilization, cue up our previous episode, Squidward Atlantean Theory Finally Solved. I'll see you on the next dive.